There was a pause before he answered. Just a beat, really, the kind most people watching at home wouldn't consciously register. But if you followed Darragh Ennis for any length of time, you'd know that pause meant something. It meant he was choosing his words carefully, because he knew exactly what people had been saying. For weeks, something had been building online. Fans of the chase noticed his absence, noticed the gaps in the schedule, and did what fans always do when a familiar face disappears from a familiar seat. They worried out loud. "Where's Darragh?" wasn't just a passing comment. It became a pattern, a recurring thread of concern from people who genuinely missed him. And when he finally sat down for his TV return, addressing it directly, you could feel the studio lean in just slightly differently than usual. That's the thing about Darragh Ennis. He never asked to be beloved in quite this way. He joined the chase as the newest chaser, an outsider by comparison to chasers who'd been fixtures for years, and yet something about him, the quiet confidence, the dry humor, the fact that he's an actual neuroscientist moonlighting as a quiz villain, made him impossible not to root for, even when he was the one trying to stop contestants from winning. Viewers gave him a nickname almost immediately. They called him the Menace. But it never felt like an insult. It felt like affection dressed up as banter, which is very British, if you think about it. So when he went quiet, even briefly, it didn't read as nothing to the people who'd built a small ritual around watching him spar with Bradley Walsh every week. Some assumed the worst. Some speculated he'd been dropped. Others simply asked, plainly and a little anxiously, whether everything was okay. It's easy to dismiss that kind of reaction as overblown fandom, but there's something quietly touching about it too. The fact that a public figure's absence can create real, if small, ripples of worry among strangers who've never met him. What made his response interesting wasn't just what he said. It was how he said it. There was no defensiveness in his tone, no irritation at having to explain himself. If anything, he seemed almost touched that people had noticed at all. Watching him address it live, you got the sense of someone who understood the strange intimacy of being on television every week, that even without meeting your audience, you become part of their routine, and disrupting that routine, even accidentally, means something to them. Many viewers noticed how relaxed he seemed once the subject was actually on the table. There's often more tension in the anticipation of a hard question than in the answer itself, and that appeared to be true here. Once he simply explained the reality, the unpredictability of scheduling, the nature of a show built around not knowing who's coming across next, the mood in the room seemed to loosen. It almost felt like the segment itself became a small act of reassurance, not just for the audience watching, but for the studio too. There's a particular kind of television moment that doesn't rely on drama or controversy to hold your attention. It relies on familiarity, on the comfort of watching someone you've grown used to simply be themselves again. That's what this felt like. Not a scandal. Not a crisis. Just a British television regular gently reminding everyone that he hadn't gone anywhere, and that the strange, specific bond between performer and audience was still intact. Social media reaction afterward leaned warm rather than skeptical. Some viewers online interpreted the exchange as proof that he genuinely valued his audience's attention, rather than simply tolerating it. Others admitted they felt a little silly for worrying in the first place, though most seemed glad they had, because it meant they got to hear him address it directly. Maybe that's the real story underneath all of this. Not the absence, not the return, but the reminder of how much people quietly attach themselves to the presenters and personalities who show up in their homes week after week. Darragh Ennis didn't set out to become someone people worried about missing. But somewhere along the way, he did. And perhaps that's exactly why moments like this continue to spark conversation long after the segment ends, because underneath the quiz banter and the studio lights, there's something surprisingly human going on. What did you notice while watching? Let us know in the comments.